Okay, this is the beginning of the next section, Axis. We only have 4 weeks remaining for this semester, and the 5th is going to be the fall break. We have 4 chapters. So if we follow the same structure, we're going to cover chapter 1 today, chapter 2 next week, and then we have the fall break. Then we have another 2 weeks to fill chapter 3 and 4, and that leave us without any weeks to do the revisions. Okay, your midterm or your final is going to be on Monday, 11. Okay, 11. Did you see the schedules? Is it out already? Yeah. So it's going to be Monday, December 12th at 11 a.m. here in this room.
11 to 12.
From 11 to 1. So I will give, let's say, 100 minutes to do the test. Okay.
It's on the 12th.
It's going to be in the 12th. Yeah, it's in the announcement too. But we're not going to be able to take a revision. Okay, that your assignment for due date is going to be Sunday, and Monday you're going to have the final. So I'm trying to cover a little bit of chapter 2 today. Okay, I'm going to go through over chapter 1 and cover chapter 2. Next week we're going to cover chapter 2 and 3 together. All right. And the due date for the assignment for chapter 3 is going to be on your fall break. It's going to be during the fall break. Okay. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. You can start actually working on it next week, so you can finish it and you can have the fall break and enjoy it. But when we come after the fall break, we're going to do the last 2 chapters, or chapter 3 and 4. And that's going to leave us with 1 week before the finals, so we can have practice. All right? Everyone is happy with that? It's okay? All right? It's not difficult. It's a new concept, but it's not difficult. Okay? If you follow what I'm saying, if you follow the book, if you follow any structure, you're going to say, yeah.
So our final is not exam.
No. So the final is only about Access. Okay? Not. I might ask you about like importing files from Excel, but it's part of Access lessons. Okay? But you're not going to do anything on Access. Okay? So what is Access? Access is part of Microsoft Office. It's meant for small and medium businesses. It's a database. It's a new concept than schedules or worksheets that we have seen in Excel. Okay? In Excel, we used to have one table that has all the information. So the columns would give you information about your clients, about their purchases, about the items that they bought, about the dates, all in one table. Okay? All in one worksheet in one table. In Access, you want to divide that into tables, and you're going to see why and how that's going to be efficient. But almost everything that you can do in Excel, you can do in Access, and almost anything you can do with Access, you can do in Excel. Okay, Access is a better way or a different way to organize data into tables. Okay, so the first chapter is giving you a hint about what are the main objects in Access. So you have tables. This is the first object. You have queries. You have forms. And you have reports. These are the 4 main objects that you're going to see how to create, manipulate, and change over this time. So the 4 chapters actually talking about these 4 things. Chapter 2 give you more details about table. Table is the main part. This is where you're going to spend much of the time designing your tables, because anything else related into what's in your table. Okay. Queries are kind of like reports, but you kind of pull data from your tables. You want to see what data are in your tables. You're going to create something like called query. Okay. Forms is that instead of typing data inside your table directly, you kind of create forms. So mostly when you go and fill a survey or you open a website and you find these forms, these are kind of like an outside of the database. Okay, you're filling data, and these data are going to be pushed into the database. Okay, so these are the forms. We're just keeping doing that. Reports is a better way to represent the queries. The queries look not clean, the layout is not that defined. So if you're going to send the report to your manager, you're going to create a report of your table or your query. You're going to see that there. But this is the objective of the first chapter. The second chapter is going to go in details on tables. Chapter 3 is going to be queries, and chapter 4 is going to be forms and report together. Okay, so form and report, we're going to go into deep after the break. Okay, that's it. So Access is called a relational database because you have to build relationships between tables. It's different than unrelational databases, which used like in Google, for example. Google, they have, or Facebook, they have a massive number of tables. And actually, they build the relationships on spot, on like what they need to build to connect data to. They build the relationships. But here, you have to build the relationships in advance. So once you decide or define your tables, you have to create the relationships between these tables. We're going to see how. But it's called a relational database. And you must differentiate between two things in database. You have the database file, which is the DBM file here in Access. And you have the management software, which is Access. Okay, those are two separate things. For example, if you go to Oracle, for example, is a database. There is a software to manage the database called DBMS, and there's the database itself. These are two separate entities. Okay, you have to differentiate between those two. So in Access, we're gonna actually work on both. So when you open a database, you're using Access, which is the DBMS, to manage your database, which is your file. Okay. We described the tables or the components. So go ahead and start Access. If you go and open, if you just click on Access, you'll just open a new blank one. So if you open a blank database, it will have to tell you, you have to define the name in advance. This is different than other kind of like files that we see, for example, in Excel. You open an Excel and you start typing, you start building what you want and you can save later. In database, you have to build the database first, okay? So you go there, for example, and give it any name, just test, for example, and you click create. And this is the database created for you, okay? So this is one difference that's other files. So if you open Excel, for example, if you open Excel, that's my previous one. When you go into a blank worksheet, you don't have to save it. You can start typing whatever you want there. Okay? That's one difference between Excel and Access. So you have to define the table. Now, it will just give you one table by default. All right? We're going to see more examples of the components there. But we're going to see here, it has the same structure. So that you have the ribbon style. You have the home, create, external data, and you can change and see different functionalities there. The same thing with files. So if you click on file, you can see the save and save as. You can see the options, okay? It's called the backstage of it, yes. You cannot convert, but you can transfer, like copy data from Excel to Access and vice versa, okay? And you can see how you can get data from Excel, from textbook, from Word, from another Access file, and bring it into your database. Okay, so we're dealing with databases now, not worksheets or workbooks. Okay. I'm gonna open the example here that comes with the slides. So if you're gonna go and open the chapter 1. And you want to enable the content. Something you have to take care of. Some of the changes are unreversible. So if you make changes to the database, you cannot undo the change. That's why we sometimes ask you, are you sure you want to make these changes? Because sometimes if you delete a record, it will tell you this is a permanent action. Unless you have a backup, your record is gone, okay? So you have to worry about these changes. Here we're gonna see example of the 4 objects in Access. This is called the navigation pane. So you can hide it or show it again. This is your working area. You have tables. Here we have 3 tables already predefined there. We have 1 query, and we have 1 form, and we have 1 report. Okay? It's better also to put like a prefix for the name, so RPT for report, like FRM for forms, okay? And here you can see all the objects, but you can also view your objects. So you want to see only the tables. You click on there and you see only the tables, all right? You want to see the queries, you only see the queries. If you select the last option there, you're going to show everything in categories. If the slides is a good show to see, okay? So let's open one. I'm gonna go with order. If you double click, you're gonna see your table. It's something similar to what you already seen in Excel. So you have columns and you have rows, okay? Each row here called a record. So that's a record in your database. And these are called fields, which has different names. So you have order ID, you have amount paid. But the difference here between Excel and Access is that you cannot manage, this is called the data sheet view. So some of the table, for example, tables has 2 views. Okay? You can see the result, you can see the data inside your table by showing the data sheet view. Okay, so you see how your database or your table is structured, and you can see the records or the values inside, okay? You can also switch it to design view. When you switch to design view, you will see the field names. You will not see your records anymore, okay? Now you're configuring the table. This is where you're gonna start if you build the table. We're gonna see an example later. But for example, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 are the 5 columns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is nothing. So forget about it. So we have 5 columns there. If you want to configure the columns, you go and switch to design view. In the design view, we have the name. If you want to change the name, you have to change it from there. Okay, you can change it from the view. So if you want to change the data type, so for example, this one is a currency. You can click on there and select which kind of like type of data is available there. You can put description. This is optional. This is for you as a designer to know or give you information about that field. Yes. Which one?
Like the employer ID.
You want a data sheet view?
Oh.
Okay. So those are not shown in the view. So this is for something for you as a designer to know what's kind of like variables or conditions in any table, all right? Also, for example, here, let's go to this one, short text, for example. You can specify the field size. So here's 10, so 10 characters in that field, so you can specify it. And you have also different attributes there, all right? We're gonna take an example for that, but now we're gonna go and explore the 4 kinds. We're gonna explore the table, we're gonna explore the query, and we're gonna explore forms and reports, all right? So whenever you make changes there, you save them, you can switch back to your design data sheet view to see the changes, okay? Now we're not managing the records, okay? The records are still there intact. If you want to manage the records, you just go from the data sheet view. For example, if you want to decide, add the number there, for example, you want to change anything, you can just go and type, okay? So you can change values wherever you want, okay? You can insert a new record. So if you click on that one and you start, this is an auto number, so don't put any number there. And you're gonna start typing any value. You can insert a new record in your data set. Okay. You can also delete, for example, if you want to delete that record that you insert, so you click at this side here, right click and delete record. Okay. So you can delete, it will tell you this is permanent. So you want to recover back and say yes. You deleted that record. You could also delete the column if you want. So you can select the column, right click, and you can delete that field.
Wait,
All right.
how do you add a field again?
We're going to go into that, okay? So we're going to talk about details about the tables later, but you could do that in datasheet view, all right? What else? Okay. This is a table. So for now, I'm going to import a table from another from another database. We're going to use it as an example, okay? So you could go here into external data. I'm going to import data from another Access file. You will tell me where it is. I will go to browse. I'll go to my file, and it's called participant. Okay? It's part of your files that comes with the slide. So if you select participant, and click OK, I want to import the tables, queries, or report in that file. Yeah.
When on documents?
Wherever you download it. So if you download it in download folder, just find it there.
Oh, so we're supposed to select my participant.
Yeah, so the participant file name. And here we click import. We go with OK. And it will tell you that these are the tables out there, but there's no queries, no forms, no reports, nothing. There's only one table there. This is what I want to import in my workbook. So I'm going to select that and say, OK. I don't want to save this. We're going to talk about this later, but don't click on save. And click OK. So now another table now showed up. It's called participant. Okay. Every time you click on a table, you'd see that the view appears in this working area. So you can close it from here. So if you want to close this table, you select it. And you click the X there. Or you can right-click and close. Okay. So now we're closing everything. I'm going to open this work or this table that we imported from another work of another database. It has some values there. So these are my participants, some information there. And you can see that this table only have information about participants. Doesn't have any information about what they did or what they want or whatever. These all information are related to the participants. So their name, their address, their phone numbers, okay? Everything else, for example here, the items has its own database. This is what you call entities in database. You have to define an entity. Entity is a separate, each entity is separate from each other. The items are separate entity from the people, okay? Then you can find interaction between those through, for example, order or manufacturing. But those are two separate entities. And we build the tables based on those entities. So before, the database administrator or designer has to understand your business and have to understand which kind of entities that you have, all right? So for example, here we have two entities, the participants and the items. What I'm seeing, okay. Okay, for example, the same thing, if you want to add or edit, you can go from here and add a new record, or you can click into this bottom there, can you see it? It's a new blank record, so you can create a new record there, or you can navigate using this control bar there. So you can go up or down. You can go all the way up or all the way down, okay? Think about you having a very huge database. You have like 1,000 users or whatever, so you can create in that. I don't know what we need to do here. We talked about the design view, the navigation pane. We imported the table. We're gonna see more about relationships. Okay, queries. Now we've seen you could see your data like this way, okay? But also you can create a query. The query will retrieve data from these tables. So if you go, for example, and close these tables there, if you double click on that query, you can see that it shows the order ID and the amount paid only. That comes from the order table, okay? The order table has more information, but here I only retrieved these two columns, okay? So how are we gonna create a query? Let's create a query that pulls data from the participants. So I don't wanna see the all participant. I wanna see a specific number of participants based on certain conditions. So you can go there under create. So you can create tables, you can create queries, you can create forms, and you can create reports. There are different ways to create them. For example, in tables, you have two ways there. We're going to talk about this. We're going to come back to this later because this is supposed to be the next chapter, and I'm going to cover some of it now. The queries, if you go to Query Wizard, this is an easy one. So if you click on that one, it will tell you there are different type of queries. We're going to see this one now, for example. Chapter 3, we're going to talk more about queries, okay? So you click the simple query, you click OK, and now I'll tell you which table you want to pull the data from, okay? So I want to pull data from the participant table, okay? And these all the fields that's in that table, which one you want to see in your query, all right? So I want to see the last name. You click on the last name and you click that arrow. So you put it there. I want to see the first name, and I also want to see the city. All right? I don't want to see the other information. I just want to see these three information. You can click on this one to bring all the fields together. You can click on that one to remove the fields from your selected area. And you click next. Then you give it a name here. So the name is going to be query at the front, QRY, and name that as query participant. And now I want to open the query and see it. So you click finish. And you can see it brings all the data from the participants, except that only 3 fields are showing, not all of them. Here it will show everything. This query will only show this data, okay? Same thing, you have 3 views there. You have the data sheet view, which is this one. This is for the query now. We are under the query, okay? So you have the data sheet, you have the SQL view. Anyone familiar with SQL? Heard this name before? It's called structured query language. Access has a better way to give you a visual look at the query, but you actually, what you want to do is something like this. You have to code, all right? If you go into database management, if you take Oracle and for example, MySQL servers or whatever, you could actually type the query, all right? We're not gonna cover this here, but this is one way to view it. Or you can go to the design view. So what we already configured there, you go into design view and you're gonna see this way, all right? So you're gonna see your table. This is the table that we created or you selected. And these are the fields that we wanted to show, okay? So you can switch between the design view and your datasheet view. This is the query datasheet view, and this is the design view, okay? For example, you want to add more fields to your query. You go there, you select the table, and when you select the table, you click on that one, you can see the rest of the fields there. So for example, if you want to add the state, okay? So when you go and click run, or if you switch back to your data view, you'll see that state is there. If you want to not show, for example, the first name, you can leave it there, but you can unshow it. So you click on that bottom there, and you go back to your design view, and you can see the first name, okay? But what do you notice here for the data? Do you notice anything? They're not sorted. You will bring the data exactly as it is from the table, okay? So the table, you find them this way, the query will bring them as it is, okay? If you want to sort the data in your query, you go to design view and you click sort, for example, for the last name. So you want to sort in ascending order for the last name and then for the first name. Okay, when you go switch back to your data view, you'll see that it's now sorted. All right. So this is how you can like go and change your query. You can go also and make criteria there. So I don't want to show all the records there. I want to show only the ones who are in Santa Fe. All right. So if you go, you would see that there are people in different cities there. I only want to show the people from Santa Fe. So you go back to your query, you go back to your design view, and under city there, you have a criteria. Just type Santa Fe. You click enter. It will put it in under double quotes for you. And Access will assume that you put the equal sign that you actually do in Excel, okay? But now if you switch back to your data view, you only see your records that's in from Santa Fe. So you can filter your query based on your needs, all right? You can use not Santa Fe. We're gonna talk about queries later, okay? This is kind of like a view of the 4 main objects, okay? We're gonna go into more details into queries, all right? But I want to show you what are the 4 main objects in Access so you have a view of what you're going to learn for the next 4 chapters, okay? Now, if you want to go on and save it, for example, if you click save or right-click and save, you want to close that. You want to open the participant. So now you could go and enter data into this database, okay? You ever get a chance to actually go and see this? If you work somewhere or something, does the employer give you the whole database like that and tell you, okay, fill in data? That's kind of like a privacy issue, right? You could see all of your employees or all your clients. So what we actually create is something called form. Form looks like this. So you don't see the whole data at one time, in one view. You can give in the privilege to actually go and see all the records, but also that privilege can be taken away from you. You can only add certain people. You cannot show or search the other people, right? So this is how the form looks like. So it's different view than the table, but you can actually fill the information and save the data and push the data into the table, all right? How are we gonna create that? For example, you wanna create a new form to register new participants, okay? So you go to create again. Here in forms, you can use the form wizard if you want, or you can use the form design. Let's go with the form wizard and see how it goes. I think, let's just click on form. Yeah, if you select the table, so for example, this is our table, and you click form, Excel will understand that, or Access will understand that you want to create a form for that table. So it just build the whole values for you. So it will give you the ID, the last name, the first name, exactly the same order that are in the table. Okay, so just one click and you would see everything there. Now we have 3 views too. So you could see the design view. You can design your form, so you could go and rename this to something different. You could go to layout view. So this is how it actually look like. You can actually add more things. You can add pictures, you can add different effects. And if you go to form view, you will see it exactly as it is without any change, okay? So now if you go and enter a new record there and click on that one, you can enter a new client there, okay? I'll give it the participant 100. my last name, my first. Unless there are some constraints, for example, if it's required to put a phone number, you won't be able to push records. So it'll tell you an error. This is a mandatory field. We can see that later. But now we created a new record there. If you go to participants, you could now I have a new record inserted there from my form. Okay, the form is just an interface to enter data without going actually to your table. Okay. I'm gonna go and delete that. Last thing is the report. So the report is a better way to show data different than the query. Okay. So if you click on that one, you could see that the report has a better looking than the query. So it has like title, it has the columns, have these stipend colors. Okay. So how are we going to create a report? Let's create a report for our participants. The same thing, if you go on to create, you go to report, let's check report wizard there. It will tell us which table that we want to create a report from. It's our participant. What we want to show in our report, for example, we don't want to see the whole thing. We want to see the participant ID. We want to see the last name, first name, and city. Okay. And now we'll tell you if you want to group. Is the grouping? Do you want? Yeah. If you want to group your results based on one value. For example, I want to show you an example here. I want to group by city. So all people in the same city will be grouped together and showing the report. Okay. Do you want to ascend or deascend? Yes, I want to ascend based on last name and first name. So you can tell them that to sort the names. You click next. This is the layout. So you have different layouts to show the data. I want to select that one and the orientation is portrait. Next, that's going to be the name. So it's going to be reports, for example. You just give it a name. And you want to see the report and click finish. So this is my report now. That shows all the information. For example, in Las Vegas, we have 2 clients that shows last name, first name, and participant. But you can see that the report is like the participant name are not showing very well. Okay, it's more toward the edge. So you could also go to that's a print view. Okay, I don't want to. You want to close the print view. Now you have different views. This again for the report. So you got view. You have 4 ways to see your view. So you can go to layout view, and in this layout view, I want actually to bring this field I want to bring it a little bit this side on a crease to show the value. Okay. Now, if you go to report view, you can see all the data. So you can also go and change and play with it. I'm going to go into details on that, but this is kind of like an introduction of what are the 4 main objects of an Excel. That's it. This is Access. Okay. This is what you need to do. Everything else is going to be more functionality, more advanced ways to handle Excel. Good so far? Easy, hard, new concept? Okay, it's a new way to see it, but this is the common way that you actually, when you see forms, there are databases behind it. Okay, you understand that whenever you fill here and you click enter or register or whatever, these data are going to be pushed into your database. Okay, the database has your information. So if you go and register for a new website, it will tell you, okay, give us your information, give us your password, give us your address, and it will ask you some other questions. For example, or if you're going to buy something, if you register the first time for Amazon, okay, your information, your address, that's in one table. When you access or you see another item, so you do a search, you actually having a form. That form will actually go and search another table which has all the items in Amazon website, and will retrieve, there's a query in behind. So you build the query, I want to search for this item, that the query will go and bring these items from the table and show it to you, okay? So you go and select, okay, I want to buy this, I'm going to buy this, you define the quantities, and all of these values goes into another table, okay? That's what's happening actually in behind, all right? I want to go back to the tables and explain something about it. So this is actually from the next chapter. If you want to close, we covered almost everything there. There's a last part here, it's called the backup and compact database. You can go and read it. The next chapter, chapter 2, to actually talk about tables. So this is one of the important part of Access, is to build the tables, to understand how to build the tables and how to make the relationships between these tables, okay? So as I said, you have to identify your entities. So you have clients, you have items, you have sales. These are entities, so you have to define them in first. Then each entity will have attributes. For example, your name, the person, the client, this is an entity. The attributes, which are the fields, the columns in the table, is called attributes. So your first name, your last name, your address, your zip code, your city, these are attributes within an entity, okay? So why you think we define, for example, the address into street, zip code, state? Why we do that? Why we just put one field that say address? Why we have to divide it into 3 or 4? The same, it's just one address. We've seen that in a query. If you want to filter for example, people that are in specific state or specific zip code, okay? That's why we need to have each attribute in a separate column, okay? Because if you want to filter or query certain people, that's in certain regions, okay? So it depends on you how specific you want to be in order to search for a client or an item in the database, okay? So the third thing that you have to do here, if you build a table, so you're going to have 3, 4, 5 tables, is to build the relationships among them. And this is what you're going to see here, okay? Okay, so I'm going to open the files that comes with it. It's again, yeah. And here's kind of almost the same. We have the participant table. You can also, before you create your table, you can get it from outside. So you can get an Excel worksheet or an Excel range name. You can get both from Excel to Access. We've seen how to get an Access form, so we get the table from Access. You can also get it from a text file. So if you have a text file that actually has data, you can bring that data and put it into an Access build up table, okay? There are examples for each one. So for example, yeah, see in this one. This is an Excel file. Oh, that's the range name. Okay. This is a text. Let's say you have an Excel file that actually have the same headers, the same table, but you have 3 clients there, okay? And you want to import them into your Access. So this is the participants. You want to add those 3 into your table, Okay, simply you just have your Excel file, just close it, go to external data, click Excel, and I'll tell you which file you want to. So you go and browse, and I will say this file. You click OK, and it will tell you, do you want to import it in a new table or an existing table? So I want to put the same data in my table, which is participant. All right. You click OK, and it will tell you which one. The Excel file is open. No, it's not open. Oh, the table. Okay. So the table here has to be closed in order to insert the data. So you tell you yes, just close the table. You close the table for me in the back. But now you will see that this is the workbook, and these are the tables inside that workbook. We're going to bring these three values and put them in my table, in the Access table. Okay, Access will do that for me. Next, same table name, and click Finish. I don't want to save this. Click OK. Now for the participants, I have the three values from my Excel came into my database. Okay, you could do the same thing with range name. Also, Excel can bring a range name, can do a text file, so you can go and try that by yourself. The files are there, so you could import data into your tables. Okay, but now let's build a new table. Okay, we've seen how to bring the table from there. We know how to add data into our tables. But let's build our own table. We're going to build a company's table there. We have participants, we have also companies. So I'm going to close that one. I'm going to go to create. And I want to create a table from a design. That's a better way to start, okay? So you click design, table design. I'll just jump you into that field where you have to specify the field names, which is the attributes in your companies, okay? The data types and descriptions, and then you're gonna fill some information there. So for example, I have the company name, okay? And the name has to be a short text. There's a description for this. I think it should go there. So what's the short text is? So you go on the slide and read it, okay? Short text has a limited number of characters. So you use it for names, okay? Every time you select the data type is very important. Because if you select the wrong data type, for example, if you select a long text into a field that actually requires a very short name, you will allocate space in that database that you're not going to use. Okay, that's why you need to configure your database very accurate. Okay, so you go ahead and read the data types there. We're going to use a few of them, so you can go and read them later. Here we're going to use a short name for the company. I think the book actually gives us some fields to select from. Okay, it's going to be that. Name, I know we have a phone number, but let's see where is the. Corporate ID, was it? I'm really not sure. So you have a company name, for example. Let's say you have a phone number, okay? And the phone number here is going to be, what do you think? The phone number is going to be a short text or a number? It's a different way to see this in Access. What we mean by numbers here is that the numbers that you need to actually to make operations on, subtract or make an addition or something. This is actually considered a short text, okay? Numbers, you don't want to calculate numbers, right? You just want to find it. You use it as a text. You don't use it as real numbers, okay? So you could use a short text there. You can put notes there. The company phone number. This is for you, okay? You won't show up there. And here, the company's name, we have to define the file say so. Does it take 255 characters? I don't think so. Company's name would be a maximum of, let's say, 50. Right? So I don't want to, if you put more space there, Access will actually dedicate that space for that field and will take space from your database. Okay, so it will make your file larger. You don't want to make that. You want to optimize your file. Okay. Now here for the phone, you see sometimes it'll ask you for specific format. Okay, so we can actually define how many characters there. I would say, I don't know, maybe 14 if you have an extension number or whatever. You can also use something called the, it doesn't show up here, input mask. Okay. The input mask, if you select this dotted there, see them. Okay, I want to save the table. I'll give it company. I don't want to create it. Okay. So the input mask, I saved it. Come on. That field is a phone number. These are kind of pre-built for you. So, for example, you have something for the social security number. They just give you the format of the numbers that you have to enter. For example, this is very common. The phone number has to be in this format. You see it? The phone number has to be in that format. So you want to enforce that in your database. You're going to click on that one, and you say it's going to look like this. So you have to put the 3 area codes there. Than the other digits, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna try that one. And do you want actually to save it into that format, or you want to save it as just a regular number? So I would say I wanna save it into that format, okay? Click next and finish. Now if you go to your view, you actually want to type a new number. It's actually asks you to put it into that format, okay? So you have to put the phone number into specific format, okay? So let's say here I want to add company ABC. And this is data. I want to add another company, BNT. These are the phone numbers, and so on, all right? Create numbers. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna close it. So now I have another table. I created a table that has fields. So if you go and double click on that one, you can add more fields or attributes. So the company will have an address and like contact information and so on. So you can add it there. One thing that's very important to add into any table is called the primary key. You ever heard about this word? Primary key. Each table, each record in a table has to be unique. There is an identifier that will tell you, if you look, for example, some company, there must be a unique identifier. You either use a number or use a name, okay? What's our unique identifier, you think, in terms of government? Social security number, right? Social security number refers only to one person. If you type that number, if I say Jessica, there will be none in Jessica there, okay? That's not an identifier. The identifier is a field that's only related to one record in the database. So that's why the government invented something like the social security number, because that number only refers to one person. And that's you, specific, okay? So here, for example, the participants, if you go to the participant table, if you go to design, you see that key there, top. It will tell you that the participant ID here is the identifier, okay? This number should not exist, the same number should not exist for another record within the same table. When I say 16, that refers to this guy, no one else, okay? Can I choose the last name to be my key? You can't, okay? Can I use my phone number? Yes, right? Not. It's incorrect. Why? Some people might not have a phone number. You don't want to share your phone number. That field also must not be empty. Okay? You cannot leave phone number empty. For example, also there's one thing. If it's a minor, it's a child, doesn't have a phone number, there's no identifier for him. Okay? You're gonna put the phone number of his mom and dad, and that number, if that is also a customer within your database, that number will be referring to two persons at least, right? You cannot use that. So phone numbers is a bad idea to use, okay? What you can do is that you create an ID. For example, here in the school, they give you a number, right? So try to avoid all these issues and just give you a number that will not replicate over time. So that number actually consists of the year that you joined, maybe the school, like they have a code for it, but it will not, that number will not be given to someone else. Okay, that's why you have a specific ID in your, or number in your ID, okay? So for example here, I'm gonna go back to my company, and I don't wanna use the name. I wanna give it a number there, okay? So I'm gonna go to design view. I wanna give it a company ID. And I want that ID to be my, but I don't want to worry about the number of ID. I want just access to give me a SQL number. So okay, start with 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So every time I add a new company, you just give it the next increment name number, okay? So you could use something here called auto number, okay? And I'll just go to view, save it. I'll just give me 1, 2. Okay? Every time I'm gonna add a new company, it'll just give me the number 3 there, okay? What did I use? Okay, so that number is already selected for me, so I don't have to go. Now I wanna go back to my view. I wanna move the ID and put it at the top. So I will look my ID there, okay? And I want that ID to be my primary key into that table. How are you gonna do that? You go back to your design view, you select that company ID, you go to, let's see, where is it? Okay, here. So you go to design, you can also, I think, right click, but if you click on that one, there's a key there, it's your primary key, okay? Once you click on that one, you can see the key that appears there. So this is your primary key in your table. Why you need that? You need it in relationships we can specify later. So there are 3 types of keys that you can create in each table, okay? The primary key, this one, all right? You're familiar with the primary key now? There's something called foreign key. A foreign key is a primary key in another table. You want to put that foreign key or this primary key into another table. An example of that is going to be here. For example, you can see that we have a participant table there, all right? And we have a participant ID here. And we have a table also called order. It has an order ID, which is the primary ID for that table. But we also have a participant ID there. This participant ID is a foreign key into the participant here. So what this actually tells you, that will tell you that this order was made by this person, number 2. Okay, who is number 2? You go to this table and you see it was done by this person, John. All right, that's called a foreign key. A third type is called a composite key. Composite key is 2 fields combined together to form a key. Okay, so you go, for example, here, and you select two, actually two, and you put them, make them as a key. Okay, so when two or more, at least two actually fields combined together, that makes it a key. There are some scenarios where you're going to use that. We're going to come into that maybe later. Okay. I think we are running out of time, but keep in mind we're going to start from this for maybe next class. But after you create the table, you have to define the key, and then that key can be a foreign key into another tables. We need that because we want to build a relationship between these tables. Okay. What we're going to see later is that we're going to go to a relational here. You can see everything was lost. We can go to relationships. We're going to see these type of relationships between tables. This is the last thing that we need to build after we build the tables. Okay, we have to build relationships between these tables. For example, just give you an example here. If I made a query on this table, I could see all the information, including the participant ID, but I won't be able to see his or her name because there's no relation between this table and the participant table. Okay, I can see who did it as a number. It will tell me, okay, the one who did this order, number 7. Who is he? I don't know. Okay, I have to manually go and open that table and see whose number 7 is. Okay, I can create a query that's actually bring the name, the actual name. If I build a relationship between the order, the table order, and the table participant, something similar to this relationship. Okay, we're going to talk about this later. Okay, thanks.